from high school, and I wanted to understand how people worked. There were people in my family. Do you have anybody in your family that you think is just a little bit off? Well, I had a couple of members of my family that I thought were a little bit off, and I wanted to go and understand them. Now, I'm thinking they were pretty happy that I went because they probably thought I was a little bit off and needed to go, right? Maybe it would fix me. So this is what I learned. I learned that we have 3 psychological saints: Saint Freud, Saint Skinner, and Saint Maslow. Now let's look at how these psychological behavioral saints have impacted the way that we look at raising children and the way that we live our lives. Each theory hoped to teach us how to understand and successfully manage angry and aggressive, withdrawn, ineffective, and disturbed behavior. There are 3 major psychological theories: the psychodynamic theory, which was Saint Freud; the humanistic client-centered theory, which was Saint Maslow; the behavior modification theory, which was B.F. Skinner. Freud thought that behavior was determined by hidden causes, that we really weren't choosing things, that past experiences and traumas that have happened to us were causing us to make the decisions instead of us making the decision. This suggested that free will basically doesn't exist because we're being driven by these non-conscious processes. So, psychodynamic theory: behavior is influenced by past relationships and experiences. Interpretive intervention creates insight. Insight is curative, and people are generally broken and need to be fixed. Now think about this. If we have this belief with regard to parenting, are we pretty concerned about anything traumatic or stressful happening to our children? We have this whole thing in our heads that go, oh my gosh, if I do something, I'll ruin them forever. And we make some really pretty important decisions based on this. But how many of you believe that your past influences your choices and your thoughts in the present? How many of you believe that? Okay, what if I were to tell you tonight your past has absolutely nothing to do with your present? You'd probably all go, I thought she was pretty smart till now. Let me explain a little bit about how this works. Because many theories tell us that we're deeply affected, even determined by our past. But what really determines us? What really determines us, let's use a story for this example. Let's say there is a man, he's been working late, 10:30 at night, every single night for a week. He's been overloaded with paperwork. His boss has just been on his back, and he's singing, he's so happy, he's so joyful. Why? Because tomorrow he's getting on a plane and he's going to Hawaii. So he's pretty excited, right? Now, let's imagine that there's a man standing on a beach, and he's got a Mai Tai in his hand, and the ocean is rolling in, and the weather is fantastic. He's standing in paradise, and he's very sad. Why? Because tomorrow he's going back to work. What we really find out is that our future determines our present affect, our present emotional state. Now, most of you will say, that's crazy because I know things have happened to me in my past that affect me today, and that I make choices and things, and I remember what happened to me in my past. So how can the future determine your present state if I know that things in my past have impacted me? Well, I'm going to show you. When something happens in your past, and here you are, it's right there in your past, and it is so impactful that you say, I must never forget that. I must remember that lesson, that pain, or whatever that experience was. I must remember that to make sure that it doesn't hurt me again. What we do is we grab hold of our past, we turn around, and we place it right smack dab in our future. Now I can see it. Now I won't ever forget it. But imagine if we realized and are taught our children to realize that it's the future that determines them. It's where they're wanting to go. It's their dreams. It's their hopes. It's the biggest things that they can imagine that actually determine how they're feeling about themselves and about what their school and about everything that they're doing. What if they understood that it's the future and they had a completely blank canvas? If you knew that you could paint anything on your future canvas that you wanted, would you choose to keep your past painted on it? Or would it maybe give you an opportunity to have some choice about it. Because most of us think it's just affecting me because I don't have any say over it. But of course, if we take our past out, put it right in the past, look at the future, and do anything that we want, it's called dreaming. How many of you remember having great dreams? I go into first grade classrooms, and I'll say, who's a great runner? And you can't imagine how many of those little hands are just like, who's a great writer? You know, anything that I ask them, who's a great artist? They're like, I can draw you something. I go into a senior college classroom, and I say to these young, bright, amazing students, who's a great runner? Maybe there's one. I run a little. Who's a great artist? I draw a little. Something amazing happens to us as we're growing up, that those dreams and those beliefs that we have about those dreams get kind of pushed down, and we start having doubts about ourselves.